This is the all-new PX-1 from Boss. The Boss PX-1 is what they call a plug-out pedal. Now, plug-out is a technology from Roland & Boss that basically gives you a hardware unit and then you load different models into it. The effects that are available at the launch of the PX-1 are some of the most sought-after, rarest, discontinued, and classic effects that Boss created through the years. When you purchase the pedal, it comes loaded up with 8 different effects, and then when you connect it to the Boss Effect Loader app for Android or iOS, you get another 8 effects that you can load in. Boss will be releasing additional pedals as paid options in the future. Now, these effects use all new state-of-the-art modeling, so they really are true to the original effects. Later on, we'll be comparing my vintage CE2 pedal with the CE2 model that's inside the PX-1. We've got mono or stereo in and out. We've got a connection for 1 or 2 foot switches or an expression pedal, and we'll take a look at those a little bit later. We've got a USB port on the back. We also have a MIDI input on 1/8" TRS. Using the PX-1 is very simple. We'll just page over, hit our menu, and now we can select among all the different effects that we have loaded. To load an effect, just hit the execute button. We're loaded up, and then we see the controls, in this case, level and overdrive. If there are additional controls, we can page to those. So let's listen to some of these effects. I'm in the effects loop of my Tone King Imperial pedal here, which is set up very clean. Here's our bypass sound. So this is the SP1, or the Spectrum. This is the very first pedal that Boss ever released. We can switch to the phase shifter. Hit menu, the slow gear. The touch wah is fantastic. The digital delay. We also have carryover. So if we turn that on, when we bypass the effect or we switch to another effect, the delay will keep ringing. We also have hold mode with the DD2. We've got the octave pedal. We've also got the tremolo pan. We have several different modes there. And also the stereo pan. Now, a cool feature of the PX-1 is we can set the foot switch up either to be a toggle, meaning on and off, or we can set it to be momentary. And in fact, we can have it default to on, or we can have it default to off. And we have the flanger. The way we're set up right now is I'm plugged into my vintage CE2, then we're going into the PX-1, and then we're going into the input of the Imperial. Now let's switch back here to our CE2 model. And here's my vintage chorus. Now let's check out some of those drive pedal options. We'll scroll back here to the OD1. We can also jump to the SD1. Or we can go to the DS1. Now remember I mentioned that control input and expression pedal input on the side of the PX-1. If you've got a dual foot switch like this, you can actually assign 2 different functions to 2 different switches. So for example, if we go to the DD2 delay and we page over, we can assign the target for each of those switches. So we could, for example, set up the first foot switch to be tap tempo. Now if we have an expression pedal, let's go back to our DS1. And now, if we scroll over, we can see expression setting, and we can assign that to any of the parameters. So we could, for example, assign that to distortion. But we've got one other very cool feature that I've got to show you. You can actually have two effects active simultaneously in the PX-1 and then switch between them with an external foot switch. So check this out. So if we hit our menu switch here and we scroll over, we will come to swap function. We can set the source for that, Control 1, Control 2, which are our two foot switches here. And you can see that we can assign an effect to each side of that. So we could assign, for example, let's set the touch wah, and let's set the OD1. There we go. Now we'll hit exit. The OD1, when we hit our switch, we'll switch to the touch wah. Very handy feature that basically gives you two effects in one. To finish up, let's take a quick look at the Boss Effect Loader app. We can select an effect. It gives you some information about that effect, and you can scroll through that and then select it, and it will be called up right on the pedal as well. The app is also where you install those additional 8 effects that come with the PX-1 pedal, and it's also where if you purchase additional effects, you'd find those here in the app and then you would load them into the Plugout. So all in all, a very simple pedal to use that gives you a ton of power. To find out more, contact your Sweetwater sales engineer or visit sweetwater.com. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.